second heads up, we're about to start. I do want to give a quick update here. Unfortunately, we could not get Dr. Gollum on these screens. What she is going to do, I just spoke with her, is she's going to record what she was going to share with us tonight, and we'll be posting that out afterwards. Go ahead and pop over to Scott Smith and what he has to share with us tonight. Is there anybody in the hallway? Is everybody in here? I think we're good. Perfect, Scott. Is that mic on?
I just want to thank everybody, Madeline and everybody. It is truly a great honor to be here and be in the company of what Jamie Ray Wallace, Tamara Lynn Fries. I tested their property, and Ifet Walker, Larry Cox, and Cheryl Garcia. This really motivates me to think this country can be fixed and restored. These communities from East Palestine to Conyers, Georgia are really coming together, and you can take your power back. Because the government agencies and the elected officials have forgotten they work for you. Do not underestimate the court of public opinion. I've got a lot to say about Judge Benita Pearson and East Palestine. We'll have a separate Zoom, but we are going to hold her accountable in the court of public opinion, along with some of the very same unscrupulous class action attorneys that have descended from East Palestine here. That's a whole separate Zoom discussion. So a little bit of background on me. In June of 2006, I was wiped out in oil-contaminated floodwaters. I realized how water testing is gamed and everything, and my business was wiped out, and I was the largest employer in a community in upstate New York, and I put everything on the line and rebuilt the business and the company, and started my passion of going into communities and trying to, I just couldn't believe how water testing and all this environmental testing was gamed. So if I could help a few people in a community not have to go through what I went through, that's what I did. And in 2008, Senator Chuck Schumer nominated me for the Small Business Administration Phoenix Award for Disaster Recovery. So that emboldened me, and for anybody who wants to see background, they can see that. So I want to say, when I was in upstate New York and we had the disaster, the governor was Republican, senators were Hillary Clinton and Chuck Schumer. It shouldn't be about politics. It shouldn't, and we need to get back to that where everyone's working together. And I want to make it clear, and you need to acknowledge who's not here, but a great credit to the representative from Senator Warnock's office for showing up. Yeah. And the fact that so many other elected officials and their representatives did not show up shows that we have a problem in this country.
Yes, we do.
Big problem. But the good news, it can be solved. So anybody that reaches out to me, I will meet with. In East Palestine, I made 27 trips and 31 rounds of testing. And I want to go through, so in a little bit of background, Marilyn Leisner, the mayor from Times Beach and Dioxins in the media, I'd encourage you to Google her. I reached out to her, flew her in for one of the presentations where she met with the community about dioxins and everything. I was going to bring her in here, but she has been in the hospital for treatment. I heard from her today, so we'll bring her in on a Zoom. But she's really a great resource. She's been a great resource for East Palestine. So she introduced me to a documentary filmmaker named Hank Bagwell. I need to set this up for the proper background. Hank Bagwell calls me up and says, "Scott, can I embed with your company? It should shadow me. You do whatever you want, film everything behind the scenes." He did that, and he released a 25-minute documentary. I had no idea what it was, and he said, "Scott, I'm calling this the guy in the blue shirt." I mean, I've been jumping up and down about this for 18 years. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr. reaches out to me because he saw this documentary and wanted to sit down in East Palestine for a briefing. Just like the representative from Senator Warnock's office showing up here, had anybody else running for office reached out. So I want to, this is, and on my YouTube channel, you can see we're talking about the corporate media and all the different problems, but this is where I think I'm seeing communities agree. Number one, corporate capture and corruption of government agencies.
When you litigate against these agencies, you get a PhD in corporate capture and how to unravel it.
I'm also a whistleblower client against the EPA with the Government Accountability Project. You can Google them, you can look up background on them, and they have helped protect me from a lot of threats. I came up with an expression, you can't find what you don't look for. Example, dioxins and other chemicals. And you heard Jamie Wallace talk about a singular exposure to a singular chemical is just disingenuous at best and outright deceptive. Ex-government employees selling out communities from East Palestine to Conyers, Georgia, and more. When I started this independent testing in East Palestine, ex-EPA attorney Davina Pajara, I was coming back from East Palestine and the sheriff calls me and said, we're gonna serve you for a subpoena. I called my lawyer and said, I'm not in any litigation, do you really think Norfolk Southern subpoenaed me in my driveway? I'm built differently, so it made my day. So she subpoenaed me in my driveway, and you can look at her background, environmental justice and everything she does. So now she's sold out for Norfolk Southern. There's a revolving door at the EPA, and it's time that the corporate capture stops. And then there's the media. I think you guys got great local media here. Focus on the local media. I can tell you the so-called mainstream media is becoming less and less of a factor. I saw some stuff with the national networks where they would actually call in East Palestine, and even one of the papers, and said, Scott, we can't cover you on the interview for East Palestine. Our Norfolk Southern and the PR people are threatening to pull all the advertising. That really happens. Wow. That really happens. So now that's kind of a little bit of background, and there's a lot more that's gonna come out over the next 2 weeks that I wish I could reveal tonight, but we'll just let it play out. And this presentation will be released publicly to the media, and Blue Shirt Justice League was in the formation ever since this documentary came out. And what I've told everybody, the blue shirt, when I met with Bobby, it represents bringing people together. Everyone can agree that preserving and protecting human health shouldn't be political. If we should be able to agree on that. And to get to some of the test results, and this is, and also I've had so many PowerPoint mishaps, that's why I told Madeline I'd spend the money and do this instead, and this will all be available electronically. And the BIOLAB fire, the volatile organic compounds, those are compounds that dissipate and really shouldn't be in water. So we tested the water, and this was, I think, on October 5th. I got into, this community called me, I got in quickly, near a dead frog, tested the water, and these various VOCs were detected, 7 of them. You know, methylpentanone, dibromochloromethane acetone, chloroform, bromoform, bromodichloromethane, 2-butanone. And this is all preliminary data subject to further review. The point is, what were people breathing in the air? These are volatile, airborne, but they're in the water. That means that we do need to do a lot more testing. And I think Larry Cox mentioned it. I know why they were trying to stop us from getting in there, but fortunately it was a Sunday, we got behind the lines, and this picture here and this sample was taken within 1,500 feet of ground zero in the retention pond. And you will hear, and this is the lab report, okay? So I can already tell you the playbook that the captured EPA will be using, because they are nothing more than the public relations arm of the billion-dollar company, plain and simple. They're gonna say singular exposure, similar chemical, oh, the acetone, the chloroform, you're safe. But what they're not addressing is the mixtures of chemicals, which we will get to. And one other thing, I told Cheryl Garcia, I'm gonna put her on the spot. I'd like to ask her to come up here and help me with holding this. Please, would you please? And I wanna say 18 years of doing this in 78 disasters. her ability to FOIA and chemicals, I am really excited about involving her with the people from East Palestine. It's really an honor, and I'm so blown away at your work and the chemicals you've identified. So,
Thank you.
and so what I did is then I went in, and the residue that was being deposited on the windshields. Now, this is all the industrial area near where Larry is. There's a business, Precision Matters, and there's Chris Lovejoy. And the bottom right there, that's East Palestine. And one thing that I have that no one else has is the ability to compare across 20 years and 78 disasters and different disasters. So what I did is I swabbed this and I used Eurofins Laboratories, certified EPA, BIOLAB, all the protocols, and then I put this into context. Because when I first found out about BIOLAB, I was concerned about, I really never thought I'd be saying that I'd see dioxins greater than what I saw in East Palestine. But you had chlorine compounds here. We don't know, I think maybe 12 million pounds but only 2 million pounds of chlorine compounds burnt in East Palestine. And we already know what happened there. So that's why I'm putting this in the context. So if you see this, I initial this is like a fingerprint. These are the dioxins. There's something called a TEQ, and we can have separate Zooms for this. And that's like an index of how toxic and dioxins are products of incomplete combustion. There's also other products like polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, SVOCs. I don't have time to get into all the details, and some of this data is just now starting to come in. But what I did is I compared to the porch table in East Palestine. The bottom line is the windshield in Conyers, 269% higher TEQ dioxin index, and the hood was 752% higher. Now, this is all subject to additional review. I have a scientific team, medical doctors, but these products of incomplete combustion, the fingerprint is very important. It's a little bit different in East Palestine, but the ability to compare this data is very helpful for the communities. Talk a little bit about crops. You might recognize that woman in the picture. That's Tamara Lynn Fries. So in the community of East Palestine, all the garden crops were declared safe with the EPA. But what they did is they tested in Pennsylvania and areas where the plume wasn't. They didn't test any garden produce at all in East Palestine. Now, to put this in context, I won't get into the federal deficit, but the EPA $12 billion budget, and I think 17,000 employees. Think about that. And there should not be a need. Why aren't they doing independent testing? Then the reason, I tested Jamie Wallace's place too. People started calling me, begging me to test. The EPA won't test. So we all need to ask a question. It doesn't matter where you come from, what is going on with our taxpayer funds that the EPA will not test. And then they come out with the narrative, nothing to see here, and they falsely cite singular exposure to singular chemicals without mixtures. That's really important context to understand. And these are the crop samples, and fortunately, Tamara and her husband had garlic that they harvested before the derailment. That became the control. And it was 0.81 on the TEQ, and her garlic post-derailment was 4.5, and other garlic with somebody down the street was 54,000% higher. And you've got a government, again, declaring things safe without doing any testing. Then launching, smear campaigns and attack campaigns. And in East Palestine, and I'll say that you can see, I signed a sworn declaration. The plaintiffs' class action attorneys, had an expert, Stephen Petty. They never released his report. He came out in a sworn declaration in support of me. And again, some of these very same class action attorneys, I won't use their names yet, they are now in Conyers. And if anybody wants to know more about that, everyone's got to make their own personal decision. Jamie?
Talk to me if you want to know more. I will tell you their names.
And I also want to say that Judge Benita Pearson, she worked for BP. Did you guys know that? I've looked at, she worked for BP and she worked for a big corporate elite firm, you know, Jones Day. The judge you have in Atlanta, she actually worked for a nonprofit in environmental justice. I would encourage you, especially Cheryl, Larry, demand to meet in her chambers with her. There's a hearing on December 5th. You can actually learn from what happened in East Palestine, because she's already chosen people that are involved in East Palestine, and because the court of public opinion really matters. Think about it. Why has the government tried to censor so many people? Because they don't want the truth coming out. But just because someone's a judge doesn't mean that they're perfect or they're not biased. And if they come from the corporate world, they're going to be biased towards it. But if you start posting and doing everything legally in your constitutional rights and emailing the chambers, going to the hearings, and what I saw that judge do to Jamie Wallace, sorry if I'm digressing, put her on the pavement and look everybody in the eyes, who wants to challenge me next? I thought, I'm not going to stand up here, but I'm going to challenge you, Judge Benita Pearson, for the rest of my life. And this is testing that I actually did yesterday. This is the post-biolab fire garden crops in Conyers. And you can see, this is not normal. These are dying crops, from soursop to a dead apple tree. I offered to test side by side with the EPA. I offered to sit down and share my fully detailed lab reports. They refused. And again, if you go to the Government Accountability Project and my declaration with 629 pages of exhibits, you can verify everything I'm talking about how they gamed the system. There's nothing to see here. I've got the proof. And also I want to talk a little bit about the ash and the soot. This is from when I first got here, days afterwards. You see this? This is polystyrene. When polystyrene burns, it creates dioxins, it creates a variety of other chemicals. So what did the EPA do? And somebody correct me if I'm wrong. EPA said, we tested for asbestos, there's no asbestos. Well, you can't find what you don't look for. So that's why there's something interesting. I did not, so this is all preliminary data, so it's subject to change. But I believe in communicating information as I know it before it becomes final, because people deserve to know, and people tend to stay calmer if they know there's constant information coming in. But I'm seeing from some of the limited soil sample data coming in, it's relatively good news, but what I can't explain in the bad news is in the water. Unfortunately, and I had to pick these up at FedEx locally here, office print, but at 4 o'clock today, I got the water samples from where we tested by the dead frog. And to put things into context, Jamie and Tamara, Sulphur Run, I tested there a year and a half, Sulphur Run Creek, within a couple thousand feet of ground zero. The highest dioxin reading in the water was 18. By that frog was 42. I just got those results. So again, this is very, very early on. And yes?
I'm still getting that foam stuff blowing into my yard or blowing out a tree. What are we supposed to do with it?
Seal it up in bags and keep it. Everybody seal everything. And for the EPA to come out and say, don't worry about it, it's harmless without doing the testing. We've seen that playbook before. And I'm concerned about pets. Save everything. And now I want to talk about, there's Dr. Beatrice Gollum, who I collaborate with know well. She actually, there was a PowerPoint mishap, but We will get her on a Zoom. She worked with our vets, and the burn pits are the closest thing that happened, and they were being dismissed. It's in your head. It's PTSD. It's about mixtures of chemicals, and there's something called synergistic toxicity. I explain it in a positive way. I've had migraines from time to time, but if I take aspirin with caffeine, it goes away. If I take aspirin without caffeine, it doesn't. That's example of small doses of something in a positive way. Well, the same thing when you go back to these volatile chemicals that you're gonna hear, oh, they're safe. What they're not gonna tell you is the mixtures of chemicals.
Sulfuric acid.
So yeah. And this is where, Cheryl, I can't wait to connect you with Dr. Claudia Miller. That's your husband right there, right?
Yes, sir.
I might kidnap her. But I won't ask for ransom, I promise. I just want her brain. So there's something called toxicant-induced loss of tolerance, TILT. And this explains why these mixtures of chemicals and what you're exposed to. And there's a 62-page presentation, and we need to schedule a whole session, I think, with Dr. Claudia Miller and Dr. Beatrice Gullum as my results come in. Maybe we do, updates every 2 weeks. I mean, I defer to the community and what you want us to do. But this really kind of puts everything together and makes sense. You're not crazy, it's not in your head. And this goes back to mast cells, and you probably know all about this, and mitochondrial cell disruption. That's about all I can say. I rely on all the medical professionals. And here's potential initiators and triggers for TILT, again, toxicant-induced loss of tolerance. So this can, all of the solvents, glues, but when you're in everyday cleaning chemicals, we're being bombarded every day. But when you have an event like East Palestine or BIOLAB, that can put your body over the point of no return, and all of a sudden you're highly sensitive. And what the narrative that comes out from the billion-dollar company and the captured EPA is blame the victim. Oh, it's the perfume you're wearing. I kid you not. And it's the perfume, it's your cleaning chemicals. Well, you never had those symptoms before. This explains all this. And again, I'm gonna make all this, there's a Blue Shirt Justice League public group, and I just figured on Facebook recently, I can upload actually PDF presentations to a public group, but not a personal Facebook. So I'm gonna upload this on Facebook, I'm gonna post it, and I've got email addresses for everybody. And here's a whole list of potential TILT related conditions. Respiratory, asthma, reactive airway dysfunction, hypersensitivity, hypertension. Anybody getting high blood pressure? Sinusitis, polyps, recurrent infections, chronic fatigue, Gulf War illness, eczema, hives. This goes on, connective tissue. So again, don't let them tell you that it's in your head, because it's not. And here is a chart too. I just want to touch on these about what triggers it. Brain fog, shortness of breath, all these things. And I volunteer to do this, so I don't ask for, this is part of my passion and what I do, because I'm convinced to do what I can do to help bring communities together and solve this systemic corruption we're seeing from our government agencies and the corporate capture. But I experienced in East Palestine, I never had bloody noses. Boy, I was in a restaurant and I had to have my nose cauterized. So somebody died in the bathroom. I had my nose cauterized. I've experienced the brain fog, feeling like you've been drinking, coming in and out, and I had it in a first trip. I mean, I really don't even need these results to know. I get in and out quickly, fortunately, but for people in communities that are exposed to it every day, I really feel for what you're going through. So, and then this is, what happens when we inhale airborne toxicants? Again, these are all these slides are Dr. Claudia Miller's. So the nose to brain pathway, there's no blood-brain barrier between the air we breathe and the limbic system. And brain fog is constant complaints that I'm still hearing from East Palestine. So I could keep going for a long time, but I promised Madeline I met my time constraint. And any
Yeah, I was
questions?
gonna say, if, I think we can kind of open it up at this point.